So my question is, how do you help women walk boldly in their divine mandate?
Well, using the formula and taking them on the journey. A lot of the times, one of the things that I realize is that many of us want to start where we are and then jump and make a leap all the way to 100.
Welcome to another episode of Live the Grace Life. I'm your host, Corey Holman, and today I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Janee Mobley. She's the founder of Success and Wealth Institute. She's been working with women for over 10 years. And listen, she has a movement that is going on called Mindset to Movement Summit, and I had an opportunity to be a part of it, and it was phenomenal. So I want you to help me welcome Dr. Janee Mobley.
Hi, everybody.
Listen, Dr. Janee has been an amazing partner. She's
wow.
helped. Yeah, you have, because you've been a part of Innovate Hub. You've done some things, and when I needed you last minute, you showed up. I was like, I need a host for this. Can you help? And so you've just been amazing. Been amazing.
It's a blessing. I realize one of the things, sometimes we isolate ourselves, but our greatest power is when we find the right people to come together with and connect. We can do some amazing things, right?
Absolutely. So here's the thing about us that I want you all to understand. Now, we talk about business, we talk about leadership, we talk about life, but there's a faith aspect as well. And so one of the things that I love about Dr. Janee is we connect primarily on that faith. We understand our assignments. We understand that what we're doing in the marketplace is no small job. And so what she is doing, she is moving kind of her focus a little bit more on the mandate that she has for women. So before we dive into that, let's hear about what inspired you to start Success and Wealth Institute.
Well, I'm so glad that you asked that question. My company started from my personal story.
Oh, wow.
Graduating from pharmacy school, doing what was typically in my era, what was encouraged, graduate from high school, go to find a college that you love or like, right? And graduate, get the degrees. And I found myself getting this degree, graduating, excited with honors, all of the things, and graduated and started my first job. And I was like, I heard crickets. I was like, okay, maybe I'll be fine. Let me give it another month.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is not what I signed up for. And I found myself not liking when Sunday hit because I knew Monday I had to return back to work. But I pushed through like many of us do because we have to pay bills, right? And then I still felt that yearning, that there's something more. So I said, okay, did like many people do, got married, still married, gratefully. But I still had that more just boiling on the inside of me, had children, still, building my career, doing all of the things. And I still felt like there was so much more. And one of the things that I've learned about myself is I can't complain about anything that I'm not willing to change. And when I found myself complaining to myself, I said, you know what? Then you have to make a decision and you're going to have to figure out what this more was. Yeah. So I had no idea what coaching was. I had a friend of mine who had just finished a program and I said, you know what? Let me just explore what this was. Mm-hmm. And I invested in myself by working through her program. And as she walked me through some steps, I was thinking to myself, I do this for free. Yeah. I've always been what one of my friends coined as the good friend, the one who gives great advice, support, accountability, challenges you. And I said, I can do this. Yeah. This is me all day long. And I just made the transition. I said, you know what? It's time for me to do something different. So while I was still working a job, I started to build my business. And I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? There are other women who feel the same way. I mean, even for me, graduating from college, I walked into, at the age of 27 years old, walked into a six-figure job, but I was yet unfulfilled. I had the doctorate degree, but I was yet unfulfilled, and I knew that there was more. So instead of complaining about it, I decided to figure out a solution and then began to create a solution for other women.
Okay. All right. So that's how Success Wealth came.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what is Success Wealth Institute? Tell us about it. Like, what all do you do? How do you help women?
All right. So one of the ways that I know it was one of the things that you asked about, how do I take my clients from where she is, right, to where she desires and whether she knows it or not, where she needs to be. One of the things about a coach and a mentor is that, and I'm sure you can identify, they love you enough to challenge you when they see that you are selling yourself short. So I take my client through what I call the mandate formula, right?
Okay, y'all. All right. Tune in. Tune in now.
And the mandate formula is composed of 3 phases, and it's a building phase because I always realize that for me personally, I never arrive. There is never a place for me because I understand that once I get to a place where I have arrived, then learning stops.
It does, yep.
Then growth stops. Then progression stops. And I'm like, no. So I'm always finding and identify ways to build myself so that I can show up for her a whole lot better. So phase 1 is all about helping her to reclaim the woman that she lost. Many of us, and men alike, same thing. We do all of the things that we're told to do, we're molded to do, and then challenges and transitions happen, and then we lose ourselves. And it's like we wake up one morning trying to figure out, how did I even get here? So phase 1 is all about helping her to reclaim the woman within. Phase 2 is about helping her to redefine how she leads herself. We're in an era now where so many women are leading. They're leading companies. They're leading Fortune 500
Absolutely.
companies and so forth. And they're doing amazing things. But one of the things that I find is that many people are leading from an empty place.
Okay.
Both men and women.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what we don't realize is when we don't lead ourselves, then we end up leading people astray because we're astray.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's all about redefining how she leads herself so that then she can show up in her mandate. And lastly, phase 3 is all about helping her to revitalize the vision. Right? You've had traumas, you've had challenges in life, and now we went through that rebuilding stage. Now it's time to rediscover, uncover what the true mandate on your life is.
All right, that's so good. So, and it's so true though, because you'll notice that, and this applies to men as well. So I know
Absolutely.
I may have addressed this as women in the title, but this helps men too because we find ourselves in spaces where I remember, like, so for me, my dream was always to be, I don't know why. I know people will be like, why did you dream that? But I dreamed to be like an associate pastor. I didn't want to be a senior pastor. I just wanted to be an associate pastor. But when I got into it, I was like, this is not really fulfilling me the way I thought it would. And it's not that I didn't enjoy serving people. I love serving people. It just wasn't a fulfilling thing. And so and then the Lord had to kind of I had to go through that process too. I didn't have a Dr. Janee, but y'all do now because she's going to dive in more. But seriously, going through that process of really realizing where my mandate really is. And so let's talk about that. Like for you, recognizing that transition, you're in a job, and so now you're helping others to recognize their mandate. Let's talk about that. And I kind of got the brain left.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
But yeah, so let me find the next question. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's okay.
Okay, so my question is, how do you help women walk boldly in their divine mandate?
Well, using the formula and taking them on the journey.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, one of the things that I realize is that many of us want to start where we are and then jump and make a leap all the way to 100, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I understand is that sometimes, depending upon the path that you take, you have to make sure that you don't skip a step. Yeah. So one of the things that I always address with my clients is where are you with forgiveness?
We're doing deep work today.
Right,
okay.
right. Because this is a part of the formula. Again, your goal is when you show up in your mandate, right? And when we think about mandate, it's a powerful word. It's authority, right? And it's so important that if you're going to show up in power, you have to understand that you're going to influence and impact other people. So you want to make sure that that influence and that impact comes from a place of solidarity, right? You want to be solid on the inside. You want to be firm on the inside. And one of the things that I understand is that many people are walking around in unforgiveness. And a lot of it is not just not forgiving what somebody did to you, but it's even more so what you did to yourself and what you allowed others to do to you.
All right, y'all. So, look, we started 2026 off right. and let's be real, because those are the things people don't want to address.
Absolutely.
And those are the things that show up and manifest themselves in other areas of our lives. And we're wondering, why is this not working? Why is there a delay here? Because there is a part that you don't want to address because it's hindering your growth as a person, as a leader, as a wife, a husband. All of those things show up. And that's the thing that most people don't realize. And so, look, Dr. Janee gonna help y'all uncover this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, and this may not been on our set of questions, but let's talk about that. Think about, tell me about how that trauma can affect us. You know what I'm saying? In us trying to fulfill that mandate.
When I think about trauma and when I think about individuals, God created us to progress, right? He tells us, and it's so amazing that he says in the scripture, above all things, he desires for us to be prosperous and in good health. But when we look at the Hebrew meaning of what prosperous is, it means to progress. So what is one of the things that God created that progresses? Is plants.
Okay.
Where did God put us? He put us in a garden. He put us in a place where there's always progression. So when you think about a plant, if we're walking on a sidewalk and there is some type of plant on the sidewalk and we step on it, that's a form of trauma. What happens to that plant? It interrupts that plant's ability to grow, to flourish, and to progress. So when someone has a traumatic experience, whatever that experience is, it has the ability to hinder their growth, just like that plant. It has the ability to stagnate them. It has the ability to kill them, maybe not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and everything else.
So I want to dive in. I'm going to share it from the male perspective, but I want you to share it from the female perspective because I know there are male listeners. I know oftentimes I've seen this and I see it a lot where men, I'm talking about like the perspective of how men handle it. They'll try to hide it under the rock. They'll keep going. They'll kind of rough it out. And that's kind of how most men are taught to kind of hold that thing, stand strong, and project strength, right? Because when you talk about the original biblical marriage, I mean, men were supposed to, and are designed to, I'm not going to say supposed to, they are designed to lead.
Absolutely.
They're designed to lead their families. But I think sometimes we think in leading that I have to project false strength. And part of the things that you don't realize until you really start growing is understanding that I have to be vulnerable. And showing that vulnerability is a part of me really being strong.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna let you sit up from a women's perspective because I saw something, and I see young men, and sometimes I'm like, man, at some point you gonna break. Life's gonna break you.
Absolutely.
And I see, like, I sometimes, because sometimes like, hey, you all right? Oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. And I can see it all on you. And here's the thing about me, because I am spiritually in tune, I already know what's wrong with you. I just trying to get you to break down the walls. The Lord already showed me. So I'm just trying to get you to break down the walls so you can release all of this pressure. But all right, we're gonna go to the women's side. Here we go. So women, how do women normally handle, these type of things?
Well, men, just as women, are very visual, right? When someone walks into the room, 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, people see physicality. They don't see what's going on internally. So what happens is, and even as children, our parents, majority of parents, especially those who have been broken and have been taught to hide things, we focus on outer appearance. We focus on how we look.
Yeah.
Women, we're very good about getting our hair done, getting our eyebrows done, having lashes. We're very excellent about how we present ourselves physically. A lot of the times, we put more emphasis and more time into our physical appearance than our internal appearance, right? So what happens? We are taught. I heard this saying growing up: "Never let them see you sweat." Meaning, I don't want you to see. Don't let them see your brokenness. I had a group of friends of mine. They used to always say lights, camera, action, which means that whatever I'm about to walk into professionally or so forth, I have to leave it out of the door. So I got to get myself together real quick and turn it on, right? Which means a lot of the times we can begin to act. We can begin to take on a persona that we weren't even originally supposed to have. So like men, we cover it up. We push through. Especially if you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a caretaker, you're an entrepreneur, you're taking on all of these different leadership positions. And then, like you said, you find yourself broken. You find yourself burnt out. It's a very real thing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned vulnerability, because the only way that it's sad that many of us see vulnerability as a weakness when vulnerability is one of our greatest strengths. Even if we look from a spiritual side, right? The scripture tells us that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. So even at our weakest point, I have my greatest strength, right? Even from a physical standpoint, when I am vulnerable, it allows me to get to a place where I can get help and assistance and support. But the biggest challenge with that is a lot of the times people are taught that I can do it myself. If I want it done right, I need to do what? Do it myself. I can figure this out. Don't depend on people, because you can't depend on people. When guess what? You're a person too.
And honestly, Dr. Janee, and I think that's part of the enemy's agenda. Because one of the things that people don't realize, first off, we're all imperfect.
Yeah. Say that
We're
again.
all broken. We all make mistakes. We all have things that have happened to us at some point in our lives that caused us to break.
Absolutely.
And if not you inexperienced, you will. It's a part of life. And so I think the thing about it is understanding that's the first key. And then the other thing is that vulnerability, the enemy wants to fight it because, well, now we're going to talk about the church arena. Now, I don't really talk about church too much on here, but I'm going to go in because that's what we're talking about here. It's a simple fact of, well, we say, oh, well, they treated me this way or they judged me for this. And that causes that trauma to even more, because you don't want to be vulnerable, because people that you believe should be perfect, you believe should have everything together, break your heart, or that you're disappointed. And so then what happens is you break from community. And so that's what happens. And that vulnerability is lost because of the trauma. And don't get me wrong, we're not taking away the whatever happened, whatever the situation happened. It was real. It probably happened. It probably hurt a whole lot. But now we've had the moment. Now we got to move to mandate. Every situation that occurs in our lives, it literally works together for our good. We have to sit in it for a little bit. We might blame God and say, God, why did you put me in this? Why did this happen to me? Oh, I've had many of those situations. And I'm like, God. And then you kind of wake up, because you got to wake up. And you're like, God, all right, I can't stay here. I can't stay in this brokenness. I can't stay in this place. What do you have for me? And that's where Dr. Janee helps women get to that mandate phase. So I got some more questions.
Sure, go ahead. Let's do it.
So what advice would you give to women who are just starting their journey towards moving in their mandate?
Well, you touched on it. One of the first things is, and I always say this, is work hardest on you. When we think about our lives, when you think about your career, when you think about your business, when you think about your relationships, your family, your marriage, what is the root, or who is the root of all of those things? You are. So those roles that we are in are merely a fruit, a production of the root of who we are. Yeah. So if your family is in dysfunction, if your company is in dysfunction, if the way you're leading and the people that you're leading are in dysfunction, then who or what is at the root? You have to be self-aware. One of the things that I've mastered in life, before I even understood and even knew that emotional intelligence was a word, I've mastered being aware of where I am emotionally. Because I've always been the type of person that I never wanted to hurt anybody's feelings. So I'm always aware of how am I feeling in this moment. Right? And the power in that is you can't always tell my children, you can't complain. I mean, you cannot change anybody else, but who can you change? You can change you. Yeah. So when you're self-aware, the biggest way to actually start your journey into walking in your mandate, which is a part of your purpose, is you have to work on you. Because if not, everything that you produce will have some form of dysfunction in it. If you're dysfunctional, what you produce, there'll be some line of dysfunction somewhere in it.
That is so true. And here's one of the things I often say is, because you can see this in leadership, in any organization. In any organization you walk in and you see chaos, let's just be real.
Very.
You can look at the leader. And they might look like, oh, they look so. Because things manifest in different ways. I've noticed this. I've been a part of different organizations. I've seen and worked with different organizations. And I can tell you already, if there's chaos, if there's deceit, if there is all of these things, you know, now there are sometimes people just kind of, they got their own ways and they just rebel against whatever the leader's wishes are. So I give y'all that and give us that, because I'm a leader too. But the reality is that sometimes it manifests. It does. So we got to be careful of that. And be honest with you, Dr. Janee, that's not work that people do in careers. They don't think about that. When you're in a business, when you're in a career, it's all about driving results.
That's it.
Right? But one of the things that any leader and any employer has to realize is emotional intelligence is a very important piece. How are you showing up? Because even I have to check. Like I start checking myself on how I say things, right?
Yes.
And so I may be frustrated about blah 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 blah, and then I have to check myself before I have this conversation with whoever. Absolutely. Let me not bring the energy that the frustration came from here and bring it and project it on them. Most leaders don't take the time to do that.
But that's a part of self-awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember a few years ago, I was doing a program, and it was all about, one of the exercises was about looking in the mirror. Because this is one thing that I do. I'm not going to teach you something that I'm not doing myself. So before I take you through this journey, trust me, I have done what I'm encouraging you and supporting you and holding you accountable for doing. And we did this exercise where it was all about looking in the mirror and really facing you. Not you physically, but you in your soul, you in your spirit, you in your challenges. And I remember a woman telling me that she didn't want to do it. She wasn't going to do it. And the reason why is because she did not want to confront herself. One of the things that I realize about a lot of people, whenever you come across people who can be hostile, who are very negatively emotional, a lot of the times it has nothing to do with you, but it's just a mere, again, getting back to that root, a mere reflection of who that person is on the inside and what they're struggling with. So I say that to say a lot of the times leaders don't want to take the time to do the internal work. Why? Because majority of people have been taught in their households to never be vulnerable, both men and women.
Yeah.
Because if I'm vulnerable with you, I got to trust you. Vulnerability takes trust.
It does. It does.
And this is why I truly understand from a spiritual aspect why you must make sure that you have a relationship with God. Because if you can't be vulnerable with anybody, you can be vulnerable with him.
Imagine turning your business into a brand people can't stop talking about. Marketing that matters. The Entrepreneur's Guide to Growth and Success by Corey Holman. It's your blueprint for building unstoppable momentum. This book is packed with innovative ideas, action steps, and game-changing insights that you can use right now. Are you ready to disrupt your industry? Don't wait. Grab your copy now on Amazon and start dominating your market today.
And that's where the translation of not just going to church, but really engaging in a relationship with God.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's that. And I'm saying that because a lot of people don't know the difference. I have a relationship with my church more than I have a relationship with God. But you're always going to fail if that is your pattern. I'm not saying you don't serve in church. I'm not saying that you don't engage with your church. I'm saying don't let your relationship be with your church more than it is with your private time with the Lord. Because you will never have, we hear this all the time, you will never have public power if you don't have a private prayer life. It's going to show up.
Wow.
And people will think, well, how is this working? And how da. It's the private prayer life of an individual that you do not see, who allows God to deal with those internal things. I cannot show up in places. Listen, I some people do it, I can't. I don't get behind a pulpit and I ain't prayed.
How do you do that?
People do it, and it shows up. But it becomes performance then. Now, but for me, I respect God's space and His church too much to show up,
Absolutely.
and I'm showing up with the flesh. I respect it too much. If not, I'll say no. I'm not praying today. Oh no, I don't feel like I spend enough time. Let someone else do it, and I push them in prayer from the pew. It's not necessary, and so many people would just show up. Well, and it becomes like an engine. Well, I'm just working. I'm just going to work this thing. And because, let me tell you something about preachers and worship leaders. You can figure out how to get the crowd moving without prayer.
See, I've never been in those positions.
Yeah.
Mine has been always in a different space.
Well, I've been in those spaces, and I've been in both. And I've seen it. And I understand how it works, but you have to respect God too much to show up in any pulpit or in any space with just flesh. Now we're gonna go back. I'm gonna pull out of church. I'm pulling out the drive. We're gonna go back to business. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. When you talk about the mandate, and I'll make sure I clarify, when we look at what the definition of mandate is, simply put, it's authority and commission to do whatever it is, by Dr. Janee's definition, what God created you to do. So I always say that we're not here just by happenstance. We are here for a reason. There is an intention behind why each of us are here. So the mandate is all about you positioning yourself in a place of authority to move so that you can move in the very thing that you were created to do. So if we even go back to my story, okay. I know that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do in terms of just the job and the degree because there was more for my life. right? A lot of the times people are not heeding to that. We're doing things and we're doing things just to make money. And you may be successful at it. Now you may be great at it. Like you may be making a lot of money, but are you fulfilled?
Yeah.
That's the question. You may be impacting lives to some degree, but is that the very thing that you were created to do? And you will not be fulfilled. You will always be empty until you move in the very thing that you were created to do.
So Dr. Janee has been doing this movement called Mindset to Movement Summit. She's been engaging women online. And listen, and I want you to kind of share on this.
Sure.
But she has been, she makes sure, from my understanding, that based on her story, she understands how moms are. She understands that they're busy working through all these, responsibilities. And so she has set a time for mothers, wives, women to really engage in the summit to learn. So let's talk more about that, about the mandate on that, the process of how all that goes. Yeah.
So the summit is 3 days. The Mindset to Movement Summit is 3 days. And the focus of the Mindset to Movement Summit is to move the woman from just having the idea to positioning herself within so that she can move forward in the mandate. Yeah. Because one of the things that I understand is that it's challenging for me to move in doing anything if my mind is not right, right? And I want to make sure I clarify this, because I always say this revelation that God gave me about what mindset is, because you hear mindset coaching, you hear mindset. But what truly is mindset? And when you understand it, it's a very powerful definition. So it's a compound word. We have mind and we have set. So when we look at mind, it is simply what we believe, what we hope, and what we know to be true. Set is a position or a place. So when you put the two words together, mindset is simply the positioning of your thinking. It's the positioning of what you know to be true. It's the positioning of your truth, and it's the positioning of your belief. So how do I get to a place of success? How do I become successful in every area of my life? Simply, it's just the positioning of your thinking. So if I want to change something, all I have to do is just change my position. Simply put. And when you understand that, this is why mindset is so important. People wonder why, well, what is the missing loop between those who are wealthy and those who are in poverty? It is the positioning of their thinking.
Yes.
How is this athlete the greatest over this athlete who may be mediocre? It's the positioning of their thinking. That's it.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? Is that most people, and you'll hear this from like people that make 7 figures, 8 figures, when they start getting to this point, or trying to achieve that point, they normally by this time, they realize they need a coach, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to break through to new ground. But most of what they're talking about in that first, probably 50% of that coaching is the mindset.
Absolutely.
Because they realize you can either make it or break it by the way you think.
Absolutely. I can't tell you that. I can tell you all day long. And I said, people are motivated out. Like, people are done with motivation. Mm-hmm. I have been motivated enough.
Yep.
Cheered on enough.
Yep.
But where is the application and where is the transformation? I can't expect my client to apply anything, let alone transform her life, if her life in the way that she sees herself is jacked up. I can't. It's just like me telling my child, well, go do this. Well, if they don't feel like they can, they won't. Yeah. So it's about reshaping our way of thinking. And a lot of that takes work. It takes a lot to unlearn. It takes a lot to uncover. It takes a lot to reveal what are those things that are stopping me. And for a lot of people, it comes from 40, 30, 20 years ago by the households that they were brought up in, or the school systems that they were a part of that shaped and framed that way of thinking. And that takes time to unlearn, right? So what happens is when the more you work on yourself, the more you give yourself the space and the capacity to change any area of your life, regardless of how old you are. But the majority of people do not give themselves the time and the space to do the inner work so that the outer work of their lives will be better.
So, and it's so true because we know that, like we see it all the time. But tell me about maybe a success story of like a woman that kind of going through your programming and your programs. Like, just tell me about one that that comes to mind.
So I was working with, and it's so funny, the majority of women that I work with are entrepreneurs. It's so funny. Not that I don't work with women who are in professional careers and working in corporate America, but it's the entrepreneurs. I was working with a young lady, and she was in a relationship, and she was just broken. And at the same time, she was a mom. She was building a brokerage and pursuing a career in real estate. And when she came to me, she lost herself. She didn't know who she was because she lost herself in a relationship. And we did the work because I told her I'm one of those. I'm not for everybody. And I'm okay with that. I want to work with people who really want transformation. I don't care how much you pay me. I don't care how much you invest in yourself. If you don't want the transformation, then there's no point in us even working together. And we did the work. I took her through the process of identifying where she was right now. I invited her to be honest with the woman that she was right now. Where is she? Because a lot of the times we're projecting where we want to be, but we're not in tune to who we are right now so that we can begin to uncover that stuff so that we can get to where we desire to be. And I took her through the process of forgiveness of herself first. Because it's so funny how it's easier for people to point the finger at other people.
Absolutely.
Instead of looking at themselves. But it was all about her. It had nothing to do with him. Because here's the thing. Once she becomes whole, she'll begin to attract the right people in her life of any kind of relationship. So we did the work of forgiveness. We did the work of, reclaiming the woman within. We began to do the work of redefining her ability of leading herself as a woman, so that she can show up better in her own life and show up in the life of her son. And then after she got to that place where she was able to begin to let go, because when you forgive, you give yourself the ability to let go of heavy weight. Unforgiveness is a huge weight, and I don't think people realize that. Right? So once we did that, we began after that, it was so freeing for her. Like, and you have to understand, it is work. It is work, and it does take vulnerability, and it is a process, and it is emotional. But the amazingness is what lies on the other side. So since she gave herself the capacity to do that, we began to do the work on revitalizing her vision. And it gave her the space to envision her brokerage. It gave her the space because at the time she was positioning herself to study for a real estate brokerage exam. And even before we finished our program, she got the license. And it was amazing because she had the space to do it. And now she's in a space where she's moving in her gift. She's showing up better. She's more confident, not just physically, but she's confident in who she is. And that makes all of the difference in how she's able to show up for her clients and for the people in her life.
Sometimes people don't realize this is a form of discipleship, where the Bible talks
Absolutely.
about how the older women are supposed to mentor, supposed to help develop. And let's be honest, like that is so important. The younger females need older mentors to look up to who are healed, who are not carrying the trauma of their past and then projecting it onto them. All of those things are important. And so Dr. Janee is a coach. And here's the thing I was thinking about as you were talking, is that when you're transitioning from a place where you've been unhealed, it's so important to find community of people who will challenge you, who are healed. And sometimes that community may not be 20 people. That community may be 2 people. It may be one other person that starts off where you're starting something new, where you're coming out of a place and coming out of a mindset, because you're going to have to. One of the things that I realized, Dr. Janee, In every stage of my life, as I began to grow, there would be people that drop off. I realized, I was okay with it because I realized my mindset is shifting, therefore my life will shift.
Absolutely.
And if my life is shifting and the people around me are not growing, it's almost like they lose the oxygen to breathe. Because the more you grow, I feel like you got to say so. I feel like, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's amazing. I love the way that we were created. And one of the things that I have identified is that when it's time to grow, we challenge when we are growing or when the people around us are growing. I have found this from personal experience. When people around me are growing and they're elevating, it shines a light on the areas where I have reduced myself or I'm flying too low.
Yeah.
So it is uncomfortable, but then what it did and does for me is it awakens me to make a decision of whether I'm going to elevate and fly higher, or am I going to fly away to prevent them from ascending to the level that they're supposed to be at? Yeah. And a lot of the times, a lot of people are not willing to let go of those relationships, and it hinders their growth. It's just like an eagle can't fly when they're weighted down. No bird can fly if they're weighted down, right? And it requires us to let things and people go. But the joy in that is there's so much growth and there's so much more that we can do as we grow. There's so much greater impact as we grow. So I love that you said that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Because it happens. And I think one of the things is what you just said is so true. You have to learn to let go. And I've learned that. I really did. For a moment, I would try to hold on. Because we preach loyalty. Well, you need to be loyal. And it's not that you're not being loyal. Is that you have to have enough loyalty to yourself to say, listen, if I am going to expand, if I am going to grow, I have to be okay with that. And here's the thing, because I'm a person who's always open. I'll leave the door open, right?
I love
so
that.
So when they're ready to grow, when they're ready to expand, hey, I'm right here. So it's not like this toxic thing, because sometimes people think of this and it's like, oh, you trying to be this. No, it's not that. Because the thing about it is, even when you talk about your Christian walk, if you are growing, if you are learning more things about the word, your mindset is going to shift. The Bible talks about in Romans that we're transformed by the renewing of our mind. So there are certain things I can't do anymore. I can associate myself with. I may have been able to make this joke back in the day. I can't make this joke anymore because my mindset is shifting to come into the alignment with where God has me to go. And so then conviction comes. This is what happens in mindset too is that as you're growing, because here's the thing, we think that the mindset shift only happens in church. No, mindset shift happens in every area of your life.
As it should.
As it should.
As it should.
And you should be able to prosper. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect in every area, but you're always growing in areas. Growing to be a better husband, growing to be a better wife, growing to be a better business person. You're always a better communicator, learning to forgive. Because the Lord don't say, Lord, give me patience. don't even pray that because He gonna test you on that. Or even in forgiveness, I forgive everybody. Look, the Lord was sitting, I'll be like, Lord, Jesus, this person. So we got to learn how to do the inner work. So Dr. Janee, this has been really good. Listen, all right, so this has been really good. Dr. Janee has been dropping some really good nuggets on this show. And here's the thing about it. We're doing the inner work. But now we're going to dive into how do you define success and how do you define success personally and professionally?
Well, success for me is doing the very thing that I was born and created to do. Period. Because when I'm doing the very thing that I was created to do, I have joy in other areas of my life. When you think about a lot of people who are working in industries and doing things that they weren't created to do, when they get home with the people that love them most, it's hard for them to show up because they're burnt out. So for me, personally and professionally, it's about doing the very thing that I was born, that I was created to do. And that's impact. Once I do that, it's easy to impact. It's easy to influence because I'm working in my place and I'm implementing from a place of fulfillment.
That's so good. And I think even something you said earlier made me think about this. As you're growing and as you're expanding on the inside, it'll naturally come out on the outside. And that impact that you have on people, people will naturally become attracted to you.
Absolutely.
There's most of the conversations that I have, people be like, consultations, people come from all these different places, never met them before.
Wow.
We sit in these consultations, and I don't really say, oh, I'm a minister, I don't say none of that stuff. I stopped doing that years ago. And then they'll start saying, you sound like a pastor. And I'm like, okay, so you didn't open the door now. And so, so now it opens the door, but every conversation leads to some type of ministry. And so that leads to impact because I'm not just doing marketing or all the other things I do. It has to lead to impact. And so what you're doing with the women in the mandate, like this is impact. Women need this. And listen, if you're looking for a coach, I want you to check out Coach Janee Mobley because this is something she does one-on-one coaching. Do you do group coaching?
Oh, yes.
Group coaching?
That's really the dominant. We have VIP experiences for one-on-one. So.
VIP experiences?
Yeah.
I remember there was a time when you did one at a workshop and you had this one-on-one with this woman and she was so impacted by that session. Like she didn't even know what she was walking into.
No, she didn't.
She didn't. But like by the end of the session, she's crying, she's releasing it, and she needed that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I witnessed the impact with my eyes. So here's the thing about me. I'm not going to bring somebody on this show that I have not seen the impact. Like she provides value to so many individuals. So all right, so we're coming to the end. So what's next? Like, what's next for your programming, your Business Success Wealth Institute? What's next, Dr. Janee?
Well, what's next is retreats. That's one of the things I'll be doing, in-person events really soon. I would love, one of my goals is to do one in 2026. I love virtual because it's easier, but it's nothing like the experience with the young lady that you were sharing with everyone. Having that in-person experience is something about connecting with people in person. And the retreats will be just that. It'll be very, very intimate because I create spaces where women can be vulnerable, where they know they can be safe. They are safe to be themselves, where they are safe to release and share their truth without being negatively judged, but supported and held accountable along the way.
Yeah, and like what I'm hearing is simply discipleship. And here's the thing about it that I love about Dr. Janee is that this is not, we think about discipleship being only in the walls of the church, but that is not the case. Dr. Janee is in every space. Anywhere where the Lord sends her, she will go. But here's the thing about it is that that's the mandate. That's a part of the impact of taking what you're getting in the church space and getting from the word and impacting people because all of this translate. So how can people find you? How can people connect with you? How can they book you?
Well, I know many of you all are on social media. I'm on YouTube. I love, love, love YouTube. But I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and I have developed an affinity for TikTok.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
So I'm on those spaces. And if you would like to learn more, of course, I do master classes as well. So feel free to go to drjanee.net. I'm sure he'll have them in the show notes /formula for our master class. I would love to have you all, if you're ready, to make that transformation.
Listen, make 2026 your year, not only to progress in business, but to do the inner work. Because then you're going to show up and you're going to be able to last longer. That's the thing. It's all about sustainability. We don't want you to just launch off and then by March, you done burn out. No. Because we see that. We know how they say.
Yes.
People start the gym. And I can't talk, though, because I'll probably be in the gym once and then I'll be out the next. But, here's the thing about it. In other areas of my life, I'm a lot more disciplined. And so, but being honest and being real with that, we want business owners. We want women in the careers. Dr. Janee wants women to have that sustainability. So, Dr. Janee, any last words, anything encouraging that you want to share before we end this session?
One thing I always say at the end of an event, at the end of any podcast, is you invested one of the most valuable things that God gave you, and that is your time. You sat here for however long, but here's the question: what are you going to do with the gems that were shared? How are you going to apply them to your life? I always say, what is the one thing that I can take from what I just listened to and apply it to some area of my life? That's where the yielding and the progression and of your time comes from.
Absolutely. So if you're a woman that is in need of a coach, connect with Dr. Janee Mobley. I am promoting her because I understand, I've seen the impact, I've seen the work. So I want you to connect with her in 2026, okay? Thank you, Dr. Janee.
Thank you for having me.
For all you do.
Thank
you for
you.
joining this session today. And we're so honored that you said yes and that we could highlight what you do because we know the impact that you make.
Thank you.
So thank you. All right, you all. We'll see you on the next episode of Live the Grace Life. Make sure you subscribe and like this video, and make sure you share it with a woman that can really benefit from the services of Dr. Janee. Y'all have a blessed day.